All right, so in this video, I want to shed some light on my story of how I got into operating behind content creators and being able to generate them results like this. And also being the CEO and one of the founders of growthoperator.com, a name some of you probably know and some of you will get to know. So first off, the way we're going to start this off is how I first started in the online business. I was working a normal job at the time, right? And I really just wanted to find something where I could have a lot of my time back, right? In a sense, what I mean by like a lot of my time back, I didn't want to be stuck working and not be able to build something on my own. So I tried a bunch of different things, but then there was one specific time, funny enough, I was at work and I met one of the guys right now. He's actually pretty big in the like high ticket sales, like online sales space. And you know, he pulled up, he was driving a nice car at the time and he was around my age, a little bit older. So of course I asked him what he did and he told me he did remote sales. And when I was like, okay, like remote sales, high ticket sales, I looked into it. I went into it, and then later on, fast forward into me getting a sales role and being able to like close on a commission basis, I made more than, you know, like 1 week of doing that than a whole month at my job. So of course I left. But then what happened after that was interesting. I started selling for a bunch of these online creators, a lot actually, and became decent at it. But what I realized was remote sales, high ticket sales, you were just selling behind content creators. Right? Like you were just selling behind content creators. You weren't, right, like selling behind like some business and you're like really a corporate employee. It actually was the opposite of it a little bit, right? You weren't too much of a corporate employee, to say the least. You were more so just kind of like a 1099, right? And you were pretty much like, in a sense, you were working under a business, but it didn't have that feel and I liked it. But of course, at the end of the day, it still was a job. It still was a glorified job. But what I realized then later on was, hey, like I'm selling behind all these content creators really with like the personal brands, but they have systems that are causing them to make 6 figures a month. Like I didn't see stuff like this. There were these online businesses that were making 100, 200, 300, 400 grand a month. Some even make $1 million a month, right? And of course it's not all profit, but they're taking home pretty high profit margins simply just because the cost of doing business without ads and a sales team pretty much, and like tech, that's like most of the expenses. So I started thinking, because at the end of the day, I was still in a glorified job. I was doing like 50-hour weeks, taking these hour-long sales calls, right? Each sales call was an hour. And I was like, like, are these content creators doing the same thing that this business is doing? And I started to think and I started to look around, because at the end of the day, I was still only getting 10% off of everything I closed. Like I was inside of a business that was doing 300 grand a month, but I didn't get 30 grand a month. No, I only got a percentage off of what I closed. So I started looking at these other content creators that posted the same type of content, right? And I started to realize like a lot of them don't have these types of systems set up at all. Like they don't have these types of systems set up. And if they do, it's not right. So I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder if I can then be able to just take everything I learned and take all these systems that, you know, I've learned and go behind these other content creators and set up the whole entire systems. I can even hire sales reps for it, or I can just sell like a product by itself that doesn't need to be sold on the phone, and then try to take a higher percentage, like 30%, 40%, maybe even 50%. And at first I thought it was crazy, but I was like, bro, like what do I have to lose? I can always go back to selling for another content creator that has his business set up. So that's when I ventured off, right? Like I wanted to venture off and see, because like I said, I still wanted the freedom to be able to build my own business and work, you know, whenever I wanted to work. So then I started to reach out to a bunch of these different content creators, right? And I started to see that because they were already posting content, building an audience of people who know, like, and trust them, and they weren't monetizing their audience, right? And when I started pitching them, I was thinking, let me try to get like a bunch of money up front. But I also realized if these content creators aren't monetizing their audience, they're just not going to have a big lump sum amount of money sitting around to be able to afford, right? Afford like a high ticket price like up front. So then I was like, but if I'm confident enough to be able to pitch these content creators, right? Like if I'm confident enough to get these content creators results, I think I can just charge them a percentage, like a performance percentage, just like I was as a high ticket sales rep, but then get a higher percentage and then get them to say yes there. And when I tell you, when I did this, it wasn't even a sales call with this creator. Like it was just like a no-brainer. Like if you say what you can do, what you can do, I'll do it. And the first partnership I did, I actually had 40% of. He pretty much taught people how to trade online. And he was getting into, like, all he did was post content about trading, what he's learned, his journey, and like what he's doing on a day-to-day. Built an audience up about, at the time, was like 14,000 followers. It wasn't even a big creator. What then happened was I ended up working with him on a 40%, and I ended up later on, like, I set up the systems at first, building all that stuff. It took time. Like, it generally took time. It's not something that I came on and grasped, because it's one thing to be inside of a business and understand the systems. It's another thing to actually replicate it to a T. So where there were some things and there were some lessons I had to learn, but at the end of the day, if you stick through anything, you can do anything. So I then started to be able to generate small results. Like, of course, like, he made $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. But then at the peak is when he made $50,000, right? And as I told you, that I had 40% of that. So you can do the math there. So then I realized, like, okay, like, this stuff actually works. Like, this stuff is actually a gold mine. Like, I have to get more clients and do this and run it like an agency and run it like a business and get a percentage. And that's what I started to do. I started to get more content creators and started pitching them these deals. And it came to me. So the biggest thing, like, for me with scaling this agency at the time, and this is where stuff it's really interesting. Believe it or not, I was like, okay, if I want to be able to get more of these content creators, right? If I want to be able to do that, I think one of the best things for me to do is find out a better way to get more of these clients. And then I thought, what can I do? And I thought about it. I was like, maybe I can just post content and create content, and that way I can be able to land more clients through my content. And of course, like, I'm an operator, so I was like, content was new to me, but it was something to learn. And I started getting hit with a bunch of content online, right? And pretty much what his coaching business was helping agency owners land more clients through their content. And I said, wow, that's a no-brainer. That's what I'll do. That price point was $3,000. I remember at that time it was $3,000. This is a little bit ago, but it was $3,000. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, at the end of the day, like, I might as well just invest this $3,000. And let me tell you, that investment in that program was probably one of the best things I ever did, because what it did was it opened up a network of people, right? But also as well, it did help me with posting content and getting more clients. But something else happened, and it's just like, I don't know, like, just like literally fate itself, because this is what literally changed everything for me. Like, I was still making good money with what I was doing before, but this is what changed everything. Like, what happened was people started to realize, like, inside that community, it was a bunch of other agency owners. But what started to happen was I was the only one in that group that was getting insane results, because compared to like what everyone else is getting. And what started to happen is this business owner saw that and was like, bro, I think I'm going to start teaching people essentially what you do, because like he was technically already doing that. He was a content creator himself, and he had a business that was teaching other agency owners how to create content. So he already was monetizing his audience. But what happened from there is he was like, bro, I think like everyone's not getting as much as results as you. Like, I don't want people to come into this program and not get any results, and you're getting the best results. I think I want to teach them exactly what you do. And I was like, I mean, yeah, if you're willing to go in and, teach them everything that they need to learn, there's no reason why they can't get results. And that's what he went in and did. But when he went in and did that, and he started doing it inside the community, these people, it took time, but these people started to get results. They started to land content creators. These content creators started to say yes to them. They were pitching 40% of their businesses, right? 50% sometimes, right? And, sometimes on the lower end, 10%. And it was working. Like, it was genuinely working. And I still went off and I was doing my own thing. But what started to happen was this guy's business, and he had a business partner at the time too as well. They started to blow up because they started to post content about what they were doing, right? But not in a space from like helping content creators, but helping people help content creators. And it started a wave, right? And what later happened was a name for it was created, and it was called Growth Operating. And this business, like, it started to like organically, like, posting content, started to go a little viral at the time, right? And a bunch of people started flocking in and they wanted to learn it. And so what happened was these people came to me and they're like, hey, like, we need like really good sales systems for this. And the only person we know that'll be a good fit for it was you. And at the end of the day, they offered me 20%. And I was like, you know what? I would love to take this on. I would love to teach people like what I do, but I wasn't directly teaching. I was more so the one actually running the system behind growthoperator.com, because at that point the domain was purchased and growthoperator.com was born. And what started to happen is when I came on, the business started to double every single month. it was at 50K a month. Then it went to 100. Then I went to 200. Then I went to 400 at its peak, right? And it was beautiful. It was literally a historical run that you could say, right? And it was really fun. Fast forward later on, as the business stabilized, the revenue started to dip down. And what started to happen is, at the end of the day, sometimes people grow apart and it dispersed, right? The business dispersed. And alongside of growthoperator.com, what happened? There was 1,800 students and they all got insane results. They're huge faces in the space now. At the end of the day, I still had to go do my own thing. So what did I do? I went back to what I knew best. I ended up going back and getting other clients and scaling clients up to 100 grand a month, 200 grand a month, some all the way up to 600 grand a month. And I was running the agency again. And I was just living off of that. And I was enjoying life, right? And something started to happen in the market, right? This is when everything came out about the online education industry. That's projected to be worth $1 trillion, later down the line, and also projected to be growing by the minimum of 20% is what it grows by every year. The funny thing about it is people started to understand too as well, content creators, a small niche of people started to understand that these content creators actually have trouble monetizing their audience. There's 200 million of them, and there's more content creators every single year, by the way. More and more people get into posting content, but only 4% of them know how to monetize their audience. And there's not a lot of people solving for that issue. So bigger people in the space started to notice and take advantage of it. And actually one of the biggest online entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs, Iman, for example, he ended up wanting to get access to growthoperator.com. And actually that's why today he has the old course modules in there. And you can see me teaching in there too as well. And what ended up happening was the owner of growthoperator.com saw that I was still actively doing growth operating, even though the two other co-founders, they went their separate ways and started doing things completely different. And that's how it came back to me with growthoperator.com. They said, you know what, since you're doing it and you're actively doing it, I think it would make sense for you to have it. And it meant a lot to me because I was actively still doing the growth operating. I was still doing the actual model that I was teaching. You know how some people, they tell people how to do a model, but they don't actively do it anymore, right? They just sell the program or the course. That wasn't the case with me that they saw. And that's why they wanted to give it to me. And that was pretty much a quick story of how we got to today. And then I want to talk about the next steps and the vision for this. So anyone that's following along the ride, it'll be an interesting one. What I plan on doing is with growthoperator.com, I want it to be the marketplace for everything. I want it to solve the problem of people, having the option to be able to do whatever they want to do, right? I want to change millions of lives by giving people the skill to be able to be in control of their own income and their time and have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. But I also want to solve a huge problem in the space of helping these content creators monetize their audience. So I want to build a marketplace where I personally train growth operators, everything that I know to be able to have the skill to be able to partner with these content creators and get results. And I also want to use my network and build a bigger network of content creators to start partnering these content creators up with trained growth operators that can help them hand in hand. I want everything to work together. So if you're watching this, you're very early, and if you made it all the way through this video, you'll understand what is going to be built here at growthoperator.com, and it's going to be a fun ride. So again, that's the story, and I will see you guys on the next one.